Hi, welcome to season 4 of Everyday NLP Bites, and season 4 is also in conversation with. I've had loads of good feedback about the conversations that I had in season 3, so here we go again. For those of you that have not been watching or listening to earlier podcasts, my name is Florence Madden. I'm an NLP trainer and coach based in Cumbria in the north of England. I'm also the author of The Intention Impact Conundrum and the co-author of Everyday NLP. So in this series as well, I'm going to be carrying on with the 2 questions I was asking in season 3, and that is talking to people who have undertaken NLP training or who are NLP trainers in themselves, to ask them about, well, what's been the concept in NLP that has meant the most to them? And specifically, how has that impacted in their work and life? So opening this season, I present to you Jackie Lawlor. Jackie is a coach and facilitator, and her business is Love Who You Are, and I love that title. Anyway, those are the questions, Jackie, so over to you. What has meant the most to you in NLP, and how have you used it in your life and work?
Oh, thanks, Florence. It's such a joy to be here. And I can absolutely say, well, NLP has made such a difference to my life generally, but clean language questions, David Grove's clean language questions have made the most enormous difference to my life. If I might just share the journey of how I came to the questions. So I was doing my master practitioner NLP training probably in 2013, 2014, and the clean language questions were introduced to us in order to be able to do our modelling project. The idea is that you model an exemplar, a few exemplars around an issue that you want to take on for yourself, so that you can try a new behaviour on and share it and teach it to other people. And so clean language questions were introduced to us, and we were invited to practice with the people in the training group, and I thought they were ridiculous. I thought, these questions, what are these? They don't make sense, they're not grammatically correct. I feel really self-conscious when I ask them. I didn't like them at all. However, in finding and interviewing exemplars for my modelling project, I was just blown away by the impact of the questions. So on the course that I was on, the trainer brought in people that we could model. So there was a lady called Angela who brought in her dog, and she shows her dog. And I wanted to find out how she and her dog had this fantastic relationship, in that they kind of moved as one. And I asked her questions. And the clear language questions elicited not just what she was doing that she knew she was doing, but what was going on the inside, where that came from. You know, did it have a size, shape or colour? What happened next? Is there anything else? And it was just magical. And so I had 5 exemplars that I modelled for my project. And not only did I discover some superb strategies from those 5 exemplars and pass my master practitioner, but it actually spawned a course which I ran for many years and still run occasionally. In fact, I'm running it soon, and that course is called How to Have a Courageous Conversation. Because by modelling those exemplars, who each had a different way of connecting with someone in a to say things that could be potentially difficult or in a difficult situation, and still maintained the relationship in a respectful way, so that both felt heard. And that was something I really wanted for myself. So we teach what we ourselves need, and I went on to teach that for many years, and I'm rewriting it now for another customer who wants it shortly.
Okay, could I just ask you a bit more about, and I don't know for people who are watching or listening what they already know about clean language or clean questions.
Yeah.
So what is a clean question? Clean in what way?
Yeah, well, David Grove was a counselling psychologist, or was he a psychotherapist? I'm not sure. And he really cleverly stripped back questions so that there was free from presuppositions as possible, as free from influence as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So the questions are very pared back. It's probably easier if I give you an example. So you might say, I'm really excited about this podcast. What kind of excited? Is there anything else about excited? And it could be where does excited come from? Those are just 3 of the clean language questions.
Yeah, so I guess it's not language or the way in which we would normally use language. So I can quite understand how your initial reaction to them was, well, perhaps a little bit skeptical. But I guess whether they're grammatically correct or not, it's pretty immaterial if they actually achieve what you want, which is to draw information from the person without influencing them. So can you give us an example, maybe from your personal life, if you choose to, of how you have used clean language questions?
Yeah.
People perhaps in a training environment probably get used, and even in a coaching environment, get used to getting asked all sorts of questions. So perhaps they're a little more unfazed. So do you have an example from your personal life where you've used it?
Yeah, I have a huge example from my personal life. So I'm very happily married to Richard, and it'll be our 3-year anniversary next month. And it took the longest time to get to the altar. It was a registry office, really. And Richard had been holding back. And, you know, when I explored with him, it was because he really did not want to be the centre of attention. The very idea of standing up in front of people just absolutely made his blood run cold. And it was something that had really put him off from kind of going ahead with this. And so, you know, I kind of gently explored that with him. And, you know, I started to ask him, so what is it that you know, that you're most worried about? And what would you like to have happen? That's a clean language question. What would you like to have happen if we were to get married? You know, and what would you be seeing and hearing that would let you know that it was working for you, that sort of thing. And from that, you know, we found out that he wanted to just do minimal. You have to stand up and say your vows, and you have to stand up and say a little bit to each other. He just wanted the very minimum of information so he could sit down and get comfortable again as quickly as possible. So this comes to the really beautiful bit. So we just took some time out before we got married, and we each asked each other, for this marriage to be just as you would like, it would be like what? And we kind of gently explored. And for example, Richard said it would be like an adventure. What kind of an adventure? Is there anything else about that adventure? And from those questions, we each came out with just 2 sentences that were absolutely reflective of our relationship, what we each wanted from the other, and what we each wanted from our marriage. And we could stand there, and it was brief, but it was totally generated from us, and it was just gorgeous. And people gave us feedback on how beautiful it had been. And it didn't feel that brief as we were saying it, but it was, and it just gave Richard what he needed to feel comfortable.
It's interesting, the word I'm about to use is not a very romantic one, and yet what struck me when you were talking about that was how authentic that is. When you really, really explore what someone else really, really wants. And I suppose what you really, really want as well. And that's a lovely story.
It's a beautiful story. We use it, and although Richard's not clean language trained, he's sort of picked it up from osmosis, from being, we've got a small house, from being in the next room, hearing calls. And he finds himself saying, because you know, he thinks it's hilarious, these daft questions, but he finds himself saying what kind of, and you know, and using clean language questions. And so we can use it quite naturally in our relationship now. It's a beautiful gift, both professionally and personally. I've just found it transformational. It really stops me making assumptions about whoever I'm working with, Richard, for example, what he might want, what I could do, you know, what I think, you know, what I think he would want. I can actually ask him and stay with his model of what he wants to happen, and just explore that. And so it feels very respectful to both ask and to receive the questions.
And it can be so hard in the normal course of events to keep our own thoughts and our own opinions and our own assumptions out of things. And this is a lovely, clean way, I suppose, of doing just that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I love it that your example is something romantic around a wedding.
Yeah,
just, you made me start to think now, "Ooh, what circumstances in my own life could I use that?"
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so you've started me thinking, never mind people that are watching or listening.
Fantastic. Yeah, I recommend it highly.
So, Jackie, if people want to find out more about you, can you tell us what your website is or how people can get in contact with you?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Jackie Lawlor. I've got some stuff going on there about me, and you can connect through direct message, or my website, www.lovewhoyouare.co.uk. It's due for a bit of a refresh, but it's there. It's all me, and you can find out more about me and connect if you would like to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking me, Florence.
Well, you gave such lovely feedback about watching the other podcasts that you were a natural choice to start with season 4. Thank you, Jackie. It'd be so much nicer if we were in the same room, but perhaps at some point we will be. But thank you for that, and thank you for sharing that very personal story. I hope Richard is okay with that.
Yes, I cleared it with him. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure he comes out well in the story anyway.
It's been a delight. Thank you, Florence.
And thank you to those of you who have been watching or listening. The next podcast is coming up next week, and that is going to be with Fiona Stimpson. So for now, thank you to Jackie, and thank you to you for watching or listening. Bye for now.